And I think we are live and we have sound this time. We didn't realize the mic was muted before.
All right. And today we're going to be doing a topic that is near and dear to my heart. I spent the majority of my life not really knowing or not really having a label for the fact that I was a people pleaser. It wasn't really until I went through my training as a psychotherapist that, you know, diving in and seeing myself in the textbook, and it's like, oh my gosh, I'm a textbook example of someone who is a people pleaser. So we'd like to kind of go through the ins and outs, ups and downs of people pleasing. And let's jump in with, those 5 ways, and there may be more than 5, but we've kind of identified 5 ways or 5 signs that you might be a people pleaser. And certainly these are things that, you know, identified me, probably, some that was there for you as well. But yeah, let's jump into those. So first sign.
Yes. So the first one is doing things you don't want to do because we want the results, but doing things you don't want to do because you're worried about somebody being upset with you or hurt or angry or frustrated or disappointed with you.
Yeah, and I think a related, the second sign related to that is feeling resentful. So you find yourself being resentful that you're doing things that you don't want to be doing, or you're kind of caught in that place of feeling like you have to do something.
And the second one, or is that
Third.
the third one? The third one is feeling that you can't speak up for yourself, feeling that you aren't able to use your voice to express what you need, or what you need or what you're worried about, for fear of someone else being put out in some way.
Yeah, I think, being worried about somebody being put out, I mean, that's certainly part of it. But I think for myself, and, this is either, 3.5 or another sign altogether, is that that you're in this constant place of worrying about what other people are thinking. So you're constantly judging, what you're doing, what you're saying based upon what somebody else is going to be thinking. So I think that that's either an addition to that sign or another sign altogether.
And another one is fear. So, a kind of underlying, constant or frequent fear based on what someone else is going to think of you, or if you have to. So, for example, let's say you need to tell someone that you're not going to be able to do something or go somewhere. And ideally, with a non-people pleaser would just go, oh yeah, so I'm sorry, I can't make that, without the feeling of fear, without that sort of emergency state going on.
Yeah, and I think then related to that, then what follows, and another sign, is that you find yourself lying, justifying, people telling white lies. You find yourself telling one person one thing, another person a completely opposite thing, and then you find yourself in that middle, ambiguous place of, who am I really? Which I think also then kind of proceeds to that last sign that we identified, and that is being inauthentic.
Yes.
And I think that, for most of my life, I lived in that place of almost a pathological sense of inauthenticity. Just, I really don't have any idea who I am, or I need somebody else to reflect back to me, who am I? And, you might be getting conflicting, but it's always about, I need to be this representation to this person. I need to be this, so being a people pleaser and being a chameleon, a shapeshifter, who are you really? So I think that those are some of those signs that we've identified,
Yeah.
that describe
And
who and what we've been.
yeah, and I wanted to sort of just go over the distinction between being polite and considerate,
Hmm.
and caring for other people, versus needing to please them, being a people pleaser. So one can be polite, one can be considerate, and so on, and you can care about people. And the difference is going to be how you feel inside. So, in other words, if you find yourself, feeling frightened or feeling frustrated or feeling resentful, or anything like that. So any negative feelings about being polite or considerate, that's a sign you're demonstrating people pleaser behavior. It's not really behavior, is it? That's a sign that you're a people pleaser.
Yeah, and I think it's a coping skill.
Yes, absolutely. And so, yes, we want to go into what
Why
causes it.
why is it bad?
Why
First
is
of
it
all,
bad? Yes.
why is it such a bad thing to be a people pleaser?
So the first thing is it's stressful, obviously.
Mm,
So which affects your emotional, mental health and your
everything.
physical health.
Hmm.
So being a people pleaser is a stressful thing because it's a state of survival. And so and of course, it's affecting everything, including relationships and business, because if you're a people pleaser, you're not able to express yourself and authentically in relationships, and also in business. You may find yourself unable to describe what you do or share with people
Yeah.
what you have to offer.
Yeah, all of those things for me. And I'm not going to go in, I've gone into those kind of specifics in some earlier videos, but, clearly all of the stress that I was living with for, 30, 40 some years of my life, living in that constant state, left me with severe physical results or medical issues. It definitely had an impact on my business, in terms of not being able to be a good communicator, an honest communicator, whatever in business. And it definitely had impacts on that and relationships, because you're never really your authentic self in a relationship, and things fall apart, things blow up. But most importantly, you're just living in that state of stress and anxiety all the time.
And so how it starts, so of course some people are people pleasers automatically and others aren't.
Hmm.
And where it starts is in childhood, trying to survive. And one of the kind of basic instincts, or the things that one of our survival things is that we need to make sure that the adults who are supposed to keep us alive are safe and happy, because if they're not safe and happy, we don't get to survive. So, and that's obviously an unconscious thing, not a conscious thought. So we automatically and naturally have a drive to please the adults around us. Now, whether or not that becomes people pleasing will depend on a lot of other factors, but including, it doesn't have to be childhood trauma or a bad childhood. It can be parents who were stressed, parents who were worried about money, parents who had issues within their own relationship, parents who had stressful work things to deal with. So, and as a child, depending on other references, other experiences that we're having, it can become a coping skill, a survival technique to try and please the parents and the people who are raising us. And that can become conditioning. And then as we get older, we just bring that with us into adulthood.
Yeah, and we go into this in more detail in a webinar, and that you're going to put up some information regarding that. But let me just say a couple of words regarding that word that you used, that it becomes conditioning. I like to see it as it becomes our homeostasis state. It becomes what our brain and body get used to. That state of anxiety, that state of stress, even though it doesn't make any logical sense, it's what our unconscious brain recognizes as normal. And then we just kind of get into that cycle, and it's lining us up. We are unconsciously moved toward decisions, people, relationships, etc. in our life that will in one way or another maintain that feeling. So even though it may not feel comfortable, even living in a stressed, anxious state may not feel comfortable to our conscious mind, to our unconscious brain, it's what feels normal. It's what feels safe. And that's at the core of why is it that we end up living a lifelong pattern of being a people pleaser.
So also just to let you know, so both of us were people pleasers. I know I've often said I was a professional grade people pleaser, and we aren't anymore. And the way we changed our own people pleasing
patterns
is by changing those unconscious childhood memories that proved we were in danger if people were not pleased, or if people were upset or disapproved or that kind of thing. And if in the description of this video we have a link to a recording of a live webinar we did that will take you through exactly how that works and how it can be changed and all of that. There's also a link to a live one coming up on August 13th. So you can register for that. It's free, and it'll take you into more details on that.
Yeah, so if you've been struggling with any of these signs, or if you're a self-identified people pleaser, give those links a go, and give yourself the opportunity to free yourself from some of those old patterns.
All right, and we will see you next time. Lots of love to all of you.
Bye for now.
Bye.